Right, final video of week one summary. I'm going to try to make this really brief. And if you guys want specific examples for quoting, let me know and I'll do those. I feel like doing them this way might be annoying. And you could ask each other too, like, hey, what'd you do? And I should have had you post these in discussion so you could have seen the different ways that people were doing this. Mostly though, what I was looking for in the quotes was that you had you identified a source, right? From that source, you identified a quote that you thought was apt, interesting, probably valuable to your understanding of the topic and answering your research question. And then from that, you take the quote and you use it to develop framing, explanation, and blending as described by Graff and Birkenstein. And let's just go through that really quick, just so it's clear what you were supposed to do. And then if you want examples, let me know if you want examples of what I was looking for, so that in case it's not clear. But yeah, let's just do that really quick. So I'm going to share this. We're going to look at that. Sorry, back to hold on, I have to jump over here. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. And so in chapter 3, the art of quoting, what I expect you to do is, so they start by talking about, there's an introduction obviously, but then it's frame every quotation, right? And framing really just means making sure you're introducing the quote, right? They give an example of the hit and run or the dangling quote in which something is introduced and then it's not even really, it says right there, Susan Bordeaux writes about women and dieting, gives a quote about it, and then I think Bordeaux is right. Another point Bordeaux makes is this, right? So there's no development at all. There's no explanation of the quote. There's no connection in the quote, right? It's just, hey, she writes about this, the topic. Here's a quote about the topic, and then she's right. And then here's another, right? There's no development. There's no connection, right? So I've said that before. And in later on, so when they talk about what framing is, this shows that it's on PDF page 46, so real page 46. To adequately frame a quotation, that's going to not look. So in this section here, to adequately frame a quotation, you need to insert it into what we like to call a quotation sandwich, right? And again, this is just a scaffold. This is to help. You don't have to do it this way, but they're giving you sort of a guide, and that's what I'm hoping this will do. It's a guide to what you should be doing. So what you have is a statement introducing it, serving as the top slice of bread, right? And the explanation following it, serving as the bottom slice, right? So the quote's in the middle, and you have introduction and explanation. So you introduce the quote, and then you explain the quote. Introduction, quote, explanation, right? And then they give you templates for introducing the quote. They're very similar to the reporting verb phrases that we've used in past summaries. So there's nothing too new there. What's nice about the templates though is you say, oh, well, I can just use this, that's fine. You have a lot of examples to pull from. And so the reason I'm using this text is that I'm hoping that no one comes to this and says, well, I just don't know where to start. This is where to start, right here. And then they give you follow-up, they give you templates to explain, right? So get in the habit of following every major quotation by explaining what it means using a template like one of the ones that below, right? And so these are ways, again, that you could say, well, I've introduced the quote, I framed it, and then I gave the quote, and now here's a template for me to explain it. I don't have to think about what I'm going to say too much. And what's nice about introducing, like you could start with a template and then when you go back to revise, you can say, well, the template doesn't quite fit, but at least I have a placeholder that I could go back and revise and think about maybe creating something more cohesive so that it makes more sense and develops my coherence better, right? So that's what they're meant for. So, and then they say, like when offering text explanations, it's important to use language that accurately reflects the spirit of the quoted passage, right? They say here, like, it's okay to say Bordeaux states or asserts, right, this, but given the fact that Bordeaux is clearly alarmed by the extension of the media, it would be better to say Bordeaux is alarmed that, and that goes back to what I was saying about the metaphorical language before, the figurative language, the word like simmering, right? Think about, figurative ways that you could possibly introduce and explain your quotes to make them way more interesting, evocative, and draw your audience's attention, your reader's attention into the development of the quote, the reason you're using it. So they have those templates for explanation, so you should have done that. And then after describing explanation a little bit here, they give you a great example. That's what I wanted you to look at, that example that they give you about what Bordeaux's doing. Then they talk about blending. This is a short section. But what's significant about the blending section here is that they talk about, notice how the passage refers several times to the key concept of dieting and how it echoes Bordeaux's references to television and to the US and British broadcasting by referring to culture, which is further specified by Western, right? So what you're essentially looking for in around the quote is a constellation of concepts that connect and blend the quote into the larger picture of the topic that you're writing about, right? So what you should be able to do once you finish writing out the quote, once you've framed, quoted, explained, you should be able to map it conceptually and saying, well, here's the central topic, and then here are the concepts around that topic that this quote is working. And so that blending aspect is really about that. You say the framing creates a kind of hybrid mix of Bordeaux's words and those of the writer, right? So you're trying to bring your interpretation, your conceptual interpretation, into the writer's interpretation of the situation. So what's the writer's take on this? And then what's your take on this? And where do they meet, right? And they're meeting at that conceptual level, that level in which you're bringing in the same types of nouns, you could say, that are established, that should appear throughout your paper, maybe not in every paragraph, but most likely in every paragraph or close to every paragraph. There's going to be a constellation of concepts that are at play and working through the entirety of your paper, and each quote should sort of be I'm going to say it, a lodestar in your constellation. I did it. So you still get those beautiful little pieces, even though I'm sitting in a trailer outside of my house recording this video. From there, the most important thing is really just make sure that you are explicitly explaining the quote. What's the purpose of it? Why are you using it? That's what we're looking for. So frame it, introduce it, right? Tell us, even conceptually, what is this author doing here? Using some of those summary skills, and then quote, explain the quote. What's the significance of the quote? How does it work within answering to the purpose that you presented by framing it? And then make sure that you're using some of those conceptual words. And what I would suggest to you, and I didn't say this before, is make yourself a little concept constellation, or just a list, even like, here are the concept words that I will be using throughout this paper, right? And you might not recognize those now even, but as you draft more, maybe as you guys are drafting your introductions this week, you might see, okay, I have a few larger concept words that I'm probably going to use throughout this writing, and that I should maybe put in my list. And you might put some on your list and be like, well, those aren't, and you might trade out some here and there. But for coherence purposes, it's always really good to have like a series of concept words that are coming across there. And what I should do is probably post something that demonstrates that, so you can see that a little bit better. So I'll get to work on that, and hopefully post you something like that either later this week or early next week, so you guys can see how that works. So look forward to that, I guess. If you have any questions, please let me know. Like I said, if this isn't making sense, please let me know. I'm being really lenient on deadlines, even though I am grading things on a weekly basis. So let me know if you feel like that is working or not working. I extended deadlines until Monday next week. And what else? you should see, oh, and I'll be putting participation grades for discussion forums in. So don't forget to post your introduction with thesis statement and give feedback on that. That's really important. And we'll be talking about, all that great stuff that's coming on. So see you later. Thanks. Bye.